On November 18, 2025, the world watched as U.S. President Donald Trump welcomed Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, to the White House. The air was thick with anticipation, as global media outlets broadcast the moment live, capturing every handshake and every glance. For Trump, this was more than just another diplomatic meeting. It was a chance to cement his legacy on the world stage. The goal was ambitious: persuade Saudi Arabia to normalize relations with Israel, a move that would not only cap Trump's Abraham Accords, but also fundamentally reshape the political landscape of the Middle East. Such a breakthrough would send shockwaves through the region, potentially opening doors to new alliances and economic opportunities. The White House was ready for a historic announcement, with staffers preparing statements and the press corps on high alert. But the reality inside the Oval Office was far more tense than the optimistic mood outside. Behind closed doors, the atmosphere was charged with uncertainty and the weight of history. Trump pressed hard, seeing this as a legacy-defining moment. He leaned in, emphasizing the benefits of peace and the potential for a new era of cooperation. For Trump, this was a chance to achieve what many before him could not: a lasting peace in the Middle East. Yet, beneath the surface, the meeting was a collision of American ambition and Saudi caution. MBS listened carefully, weighing every word, aware that any decision would have far-reaching consequences for his country and the broader Arab world. The stakes were enormous, not just for the leaders, but for the future of the region. A single agreement could alter alliances, shift economic power, and redefine the balance of influence in the Middle East for generations to come. This story unpacks the high-pressure diplomacy, the firm Saudi response, and the deeper forces at play. It's a tale of competing interests, where every gesture and every word is carefully calculated. We'll explore Trump's strategy, his bold promises, his attempts to sweeten the deal, and his relentless push for a breakthrough. We'll also examine MBS's refusal, rooted in domestic pressures, regional politics, and a vision for Saudi Arabia's future that didn't align with American expectations. Behind the scenes, aides scrambled to find common ground, but the gap proved too wide. The outcome was clear: a polite but resolute no from MBS, signaling a new, more complex phase in Middle East diplomacy. The handshake at the end was cordial, but the message was unmistakable. Saudi Arabia would not be rushed. Even with immense pressure from Washington, national interests and domestic realities proved immovable. The hopes for a dramatic breakthrough faded as both sides retreated to reassess their positions. The meeting was a powerful reminder that in international diplomacy, even the best-laid plans can unravel in a single conversation. Sometimes history is made not by what is agreed upon, but by the courage to say not yet. President Trump's mission was clear: convince Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords. The Accords had already brought Israel together with the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan, shifting the region's alliances. Saudi Arabia, as the Arab world's heavyweight, was the ultimate prize. Trump's team believed a Saudi-Israeli deal would end the Arab boycott and cement a new regional order, especially after U.S. claims of neutralizing Iran's nuclear threat. The White House saw this as the final step in a carefully orchestrated campaign, expecting MBS to be receptive. Months of groundwork and promises of security and economic benefits set the stage. Confident in Trump's deal-making, the administration believed the finish line was in sight. Trump's signature style, direct, relentless, and unapologetically transactional, was on full display as he entered the world stage. He approached diplomacy like a high-stakes business deal, determined to secure what he saw as the best possible outcome for the United States and for himself. Every gesture, every word, was calculated to project strength and urgency, leaving little room for hesitation or doubt. He wasted no time, urging Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, known as MBS, to seize what he called a once-in-a-generation opportunity for Saudi Arabia's future. Trump painted a vivid picture of prosperity and power, promising that bold action now could transform the kingdom's global standing for decades to come. To sweeten the deal, Trump offered advanced F-35 fighter jets and a dramatic elevation of security ties, signaling a level of U.S. support that no previous administration had dared to extend. These were not just military assets, they were symbols of a new era of partnership and a clear message to rivals in the region. Trump reminded MBS of the long history of American backing, framing this moment as a favor owed, a chance for Saudi Arabia to reciprocate decades of support. He made it clear that the U.S. expected loyalty in return, and that this was a rare opportunity to cement a powerful alliance. The pressure was both personal and political. Trump relied on his own charisma and reputation as a dealmaker, believing that his persuasive style could break through any resistance. He was betting that his bold approach would force a breakthrough, and that MBS would be unable to refuse. But behind the scenes, the administration misread the complexity of the situation. They assumed that MBS could be swayed by incentives alone, overlooking the intricate web of domestic politics, regional rivalries, and cultural expectations that shaped every Saudi decision. They underestimated the powerful domestic and regional constraints that define the Saudi position. For MBS, every move was scrutinized at home and abroad, and the risks of appearing too close to Washington were real. The American offers were tempting: military hardware, security guarantees, and promises of economic partnership. But for Saudi leaders, these incentives were not enough to override their own priorities or to ignore the delicate balance of power in the region. Trump's expectation of a quick, decisive win was about to collide with an immovable obstacle. The reality on the ground was far more complicated than he had anticipated. The stage was set for a firm, unmistakable Saudi response, one that would test the limits of Trump's high-pressure diplomacy and redefine the relationship between the two nations. MBS's answer was clear: not now. His words echoed through the room, leaving no room for ambiguity or misinterpretation. The world was watching, and the Crown Prince's response was as direct as it was resolute. He calmly explained that normalization was impossible under current circumstances, not as a bargaining chip, but as a matter of principle. For MBS, this was not about political theater or posturing. It was about upholding the values and priorities that defined Saudi Arabia's position on the world stage. Trump, who had expected a breakthrough, was left surprised and visibly frustrated by the unwavering Saudi stance. The U.S. delegation had come prepared to negotiate, but instead encountered a wall of conviction that could not be easily moved. MBS made it clear: Saudi interests and domestic stability came first, even at the cost of disappointing Washington. He was not willing to compromise the kingdom's long-term vision for the sake of short-term diplomatic gains. The Crown Prince's refusal wasn't emotional. It was calculated and rooted in Saudi priorities. Every word, every gesture was measured. He weighed the risks and benefits, knowing that the world's eyes were on him. He didn't close the door forever, but insisted on preconditions. MBS emphasized that Saudi Arabia was open to dialogue, but only if its core concerns were addressed first. The key, he said, was progress on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Without meaningful steps toward peace and justice for the Palestinian people, normalization would remain out of reach. This was not just a diplomatic stance, but a reflection of deep-rooted values and regional responsibilities. This setback forced the U.S. to confront the limits of its approach. American officials, who had hoped for a swift agreement, now had to reconsider their strategy and acknowledge the complexities of Middle Eastern diplomacy. The polite but firm "no" marked a turning point in U.S.-Saudi relations. It was a reminder that Saudi Arabia would not be pressured into decisions that did not align with its vision for the future. The message was unmistakable. Saudi Arabia would not be rushed into a deal that ignored its core concerns. The kingdom's priorities, its stability, and its regional responsibilities would always come first, no matter the pressure from even its most powerful allies. A major reason for MBS's refusal was Saudi public opinion. The recent Gaza war had inflamed anti-Israel sentiment across the Arab world, making normalization politically toxic. For MBS, moving forward risked alienating the public and undermining his Vision 2030 reforms. The images from Gaza reignited solidarity with Palestinians, hardening attitudes. Any deal with Israel now would be seen as a betrayal. MBS knew he couldn't ignore the mood on the Saudi street. The Trump team underestimated just how powerful this domestic factor was. MBS set a clear, non-negotiable condition: no normalization without a credible path to a Palestinian state. This echoed the 2002 Arab Peace Initiative, full ties in exchange for a two-state solution. The Saudi stance put the Palestinian issue back at the center, challenging the Abraham Accords strategy of bypassing it. The gap was stark. Saudi Arabia demanded progress on Palestinian statehood. Israel's government flatly rejected it. This impasse became the main obstacle to further regional peace. By insisting on this principle, MBS strengthened his domestic and regional standing. The message "peace with Israel" must go through the Palestinians. In public, Trump and MBS projected unity and optimism. Trump spoke of excellent talks, while MBS maintained a respectful tone. But behind closed doors, the mood was tense and the discussions difficult. Trump was left disappointed by the Saudi refusal, while MBS stood firm but polite. The leaders avoided a public rift, preserving the broader U.S.-Saudi partnership. This duality, public smiles, private frustration, highlighted the real gap between Washington's expectations and Riyadh's realities. The relationship survived, but the disagreement was unmistakable. Both sides walked away knowing the issue was far from resolved. The meeting became a case study in the difference between diplomatic theater and hard reality. Despite the setback, MBS left the door open for future normalization. His message, "Not never, but not now," progress on the Palestinian issue is essential. This keeps hope alive for U.S. and Israeli diplomats, but on Saudi terms. The kingdom retains leverage, using the prospect of a deal to encourage movement on Palestinian statehood. MBS can continue his reforms without risking domestic backlash. The immediate goal of a quick deal is gone. The long-term challenge is to create conditions for peace. The path forward is difficult, demanding real compromises, especially from Israel. The door is open, but the road is steep. The Trump-MBS meeting marked a turning point in U.S.-Saudi-Israeli relations. The quick win Trump sought was blocked by Saudi priorities and regional realities. The standoff signaled a more independent Saudi foreign policy, less willing to follow Washington's lead. For Israel, the message was clear. Normalization depends on progress with the Palestinians. The Abraham Accords momentum stalled, and the Palestinian issue returned to center stage. The U.S. must now adapt to a more assertive Saudi partner. The Crown Prince's refusal reshaped the diplomatic landscape, tying future peace to a credible path for Palestinian statehood. The talks didn't yield a deal, but they clarified the only way forward for lasting peace in the region.